He doesn't say my name, Regina. Holding the folder to my ear. What you think I can hear? What you think it was an amateur playing with my temperature? Oh, they are connected. Diddly diddly bop. Diddly diddly bop. Funky, funky. Hey, Texan, it's a 4Runner. It's a 90s 4Runner, 1990s 4Runner, with a bunch of cans in the back, which need to be turned in, and I just have not taken them in. It ain't long at all. We are on chapter 9, my friends. I don't think we're going to finish it today. 9. No, we might have to wait for another session to finish it. For those of you who are just joining and did not catch the other sessions, we are reading Illusions by Richard Bach. If you have missed the previous 2 sessions where we started the book, those replays are on YouTube at Move With Change. Do I have a picture from the front? Oh, of my 4Runner? No. No. There's a license plate on the front. It's a 1990. It's a 1990 4Runner. Google has lots of pictures of them, and it pretty much looks the same. It's the red one. I could now get a picture of it, yeah, but I don't, and I won't. It's like getting a picture of the front of my house while I'm on live on TikTok. I'm not going to take a picture of the front of my house on TikTok, or the front of my vehicle. Yeah. But we are going to read a book. That is what I am going to do. For those of you who do not know me, hello, my name is Reverend Deborah. I am a movement facilitator, movement in breath, body, and being. And I am your Shenanigans shaman. So, be prepared. Shenanigans are always expected. If you come and are surprised or taken aback by shenanigans, or even offended by shenanigans, if you're offended by shenanigans, this may not be the space. Show me a similar case, Texan? Case of what? Hey, Mimi. A similar case of what, Texan? What you want? Of a car? Thanks, George. It's a 1994 runner. I feel like everybody knows what a 1994 runner looks like. And if you don't know, you can Google real fast and it's problem solved. The only reason you'd be pushing for me to take a picture of my car is because it's my car. Or because you don't want to go to the finger work yourself. And you just go like that. Yeah. You can even, but I hear there's like a Siri and a Google thing, who can be like, hey, what does a 1994 runner look like? Bam. 1990. 1990 4Runner. Chapter 9. Do you guys remember where we were in this book? Richard Bach is barnstorming, flying his plane around from field to field and town to town and offering rides out of hayfields and cornfields. Well, not cornfields because that had to be cut. Hayfields, grass fields, pasture. In his doing so, he ran into a man named Donald Shimoda. Donald Shimoda, for all intents and purposes, seems to be somebody doing pretty much the same thing as he's doing, offering rides in a small plane. However, as soon as Richard meets this fellow, turns out he's not so much just like everybody. In fact, he is a messiah. Turns out he's a very reluctant messiah. You learn the story in the beginning that Donald Shimoda was given the job of messiah and pretty much decided he didn't like it. Turned to God and said, I don't want this. And God said, all I want is for you to be happy, not for you to do what I want you to do, basically. I want you to be happy. And so he just walked away from being the messiah and continues basically to offer rides via biplane. But in Richard getting to know him, there seems to be some interesting undercurrent going on right now. The undercurrent here is that there's something more to Donald Shimoda that Richard has not been able to put his finger on. He's not sure really, like at first it's kind of funny about this guy who's like, oh, you're the Messiah, haha. Oh, there's a Messiah's handbook. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, sure, we made a deal in another lifetime, right? There's all these pieces of it. And then when he sees a man in a wheelchair come up to the plane, and the man and Donald touches him and talks to him, and the man gets up and runs instead of walks right to the plane, gets out of his wheelchair. He finally sees him create miracles, and that makes him very uneasy. So what does he do? He runs. He runs like most of us would. We're like, ooh, what did they do to all the previous messiahs? Maybe I should get the fuck out of here. Maybe I shouldn't be hanging around this guy. So he takes off. And of course, shortly thereafter, Donald comes and finds him. And he says, like attracts like. And he gives this kind of foreboding sort of like, oh, you'll learn everything you need to learn from me in about a week and a half. Right? And Richard's like, a week and a half. What a weird week and a half. Okay. So they've gone about half a week. Hey, dirty little unicorn, how are you? They've gone about a half a week now. And just recently, Donald basically was pointing out, all of this stuff in life, everything in life is an illusion. Miracles themselves are illusions. In fact, magicians themselves will tell you this is not a miracle. It is an illusion. And when you know what is behind the illusion, right, Texan, then you know the truth. And it's no longer a miracle. It's no longer spectacular. It's, well, of course, because the universe works that way. So we're in the middle of this space right now. They have come back together, and let's dive right in. Okay. The days blurred one into another. We flew as always, but I had stopped counting summer by the names of towns or the money we earned from passengers. I began counting the summer by the things I learned, the talks we had when flying was done, and by the miracles that happened now and then along the way, to the time I knew at last that they weren't miracles at all. Hey, Chris. Imagine the universe, beautiful and just perfect, the handbook once said to me. Then be sure of one thing. The is has imagined it quite a bit better than you have. Chapter 10. The afternoon was quiet. An occasional passenger now and then. Time between, I practiced vaporizing clouds. I have been a flight instructor, and I know that students always make easy things look hard. I do know better, yet there I was, a student again, frowning fiercely at my cumulus targets. I needed more teaching, for once, than practice. Shimoda was stretched out under the fleet's wing, pretending to be asleep. I kicked him softly on the arm, and he opened his eyes. I can't do it, I said. Yes, you can, he said, and closed his eyes again. Dawn, I've tried. Just when I think something's happening, the cloud strikes back and goes poofing up bigger than ever. He sighed, sat up. Pick me a cloud. Anyone, please. I chose the biggest, meanest cloud in the sky, 3,000 feet tall, bursting up white smoke from hell. The one over the silo yonder, I said. That's that one that's going black now? He looked at me in silence. Why is it you hate me? It's because I like you, Dawn, that I ask these things. I smiled. You need challenge. If you'd rather, I could pick something smaller. He sighed again and turned back to the sky. I'll try. Now, which one? I looked, and the cloud, the monster with its 1,000,000 tons of rain, was gone. Just an ungainly blue sky hole where it had been. Yike, I said quietly. "A job worth doing," he quoted. Much as I would like to accept the praise which you would heap upon me, I must, in all honesty, tell you this. It's easy." He pointed to a little puff of cloud overhead. "There, your turn. Ready? Go." I looked at the wisp of a thing, and it looked back at me. I thought it gone, thought an empty place where it was, poured visions of heat rays up at it, asked it to reappear somewhere else, and slowly, in 1 minute, in 5, in 7, the cloud was at last gone. Other clouds got bigger. Mine went away. "You're not very fast, are you?" he said. "That was my first time. I'm just beginning. Up against the impossible. Well, the improbable, and all you can think to say is I'm not very fast. That was brilliant, and you know it." "Amazing. You were so attached to it, and it still disappeared for you." "Attached? I was walking that cloud with everything I had. Fireballs, laser beams, vacuum cleaner, a block high." "Negative attachments, Richard. If you really want to remove a cloud from your life, you do not make a big production out of it. You just relax and remove it from your thinking. That's all there is to it. A cloud does not know why it moves in just such a direction at just such a speed," was what the handbook had to say. "It feels an impulsion. This is the place to go now. But the sky knows the reasons and the patterns behind all clouds. And you will know, too, when you lift yourself high enough to see beyond horizons." Let's read that one again. "A cloud does not know why it moves in just such a direction at just such a speed. It feels an impulsion. This is the place to go now. But the sky knows the reasons and the patterns behind all clouds. And you will know, too, when you lift yourself high enough to see beyond horizons." Chapter 11. You are never given a wish without also being given the power to make it true. You may have to work for it, however. We landed in a huge grazing place next to a 3-acre horse pond, away from towns, somewhere along the line between Illinois and Indiana. No passengers. It was our day off, I thought. "Listen," he said. "Don't listen. Just stay there, quiet, and watch. What you are going to see is not any miracle. Read your atomic physics book. A child can walk on water." He told me this as though he didn't notice the water was even there. He turned and walked out some yards from shore, on the surface of the horse pond. What it looked like was that the pond was a hot summer mirage over a lake of stone. He stood firm on the surface. Not a wave or ripple splashed over his flying boots. "Here," he said. "Come do it." I saw it with my eyes. It was possible, obviously, because there he stood. So I walked out to join him. It felt like walking on clear blue linoleum. And I laughed. "Donald, what are you doing to me?" "I am merely showing you that everybody learns sooner or later," he said. "And You're handy now. But look, the water can be solid. He stamped his foot, and the sound was leather on rock. Or not. He stamped again, and water splashed over us both. Got the feel of that? Try it. How quickly we get used to miracles. In less than a minute, I began to think that walking on water was possible, is natural, well, so what? But if the water is solid now, how can we drink it? Same way we walk on it, Richard. It isn't solid, and it isn't liquid. You and I decide what it's going to be for us. If you want water to be liquid, think it liquid. Act as if it's liquid, drink it. If you want it to be air, act as if it's air, breathe it. Try it. Maybe it's something about the presence of an advanced soul, I thought. Maybe these things are allowed to happen in a certain radius, like 50 feet circle around them. I knelt on the surface and dipped my hand into the pond. Liquid. Then I lay down and put my face into the blue of it and breathed, trusting. It breathed like warm, liquid oxygen. No choking or gasping. I sat up and looked at a question at him, expecting him to know what was in my mind. Speak, he said. Why do I have to speak? For what you have to say, it's more precise to talk in words. Speak. If we can walk on water and breathe it and drink it, why can't we do the same to land? Yes. Good. You will notice. He walked to the shore easily as walking on a painted lake. But when his feet touched the ground, the sand and grass at the edge began to sink, until with a few slow steps he was up to his shoulders in earth and grass. It was as though the pond had suddenly become an island and the land about had turned to sea. He swam for a moment in the pasture, splashing it about him in dark loam drops, then floated on top of it, then rose and walked on it. It was suddenly miraculous to see a man walking on the ground. I stood on the pond and applauded his performance. He bowed and applauded mine. Puppy, yeah, sure, maybe. I walked to the edge of the pond, thought the earth to liquid, and touched it with my toe. Ripples spread into the grass in rings. How deep is the ground? I nearly asked aloud. The ground will be as deep as I think it will be. 2 feet deep, I thought. It will be 2 feet deep, and I'll wade. I stepped confidently into the shore and sank over my head, an instant drop-off. It was black underground, scary, and I fought to the surface, holding my breath, flailing out for some solid water, for the edge of the pond to hold on to. He sat on the grass and laughed. You are a remarkable student. Do you know that? I ain't no student at all. Get me out of here. Get yourself out. I stopped struggling. I see it solid and I can climb right out. I see it solid and I climbed out, caked and crusted in black dirt. Man, you get really dirty doing this. His own blue shirt and jeans were without a spot or a mote of dust, of course. Ah! I shook the dirt off my hair, flapped it out of my ears. Finally, I put my wallet on the grass, walked into the liquid water, and cleaned myself the traditional wet way. I know there's a better way to get clean than this. There's a faster way, yeah. Don't tell me, of course. Just sit there and laugh and let me figure it all out for myself. Okay. I finally had to walk squishing back to the fleet and change clothes, hanging the wet stuff on the flying wires to dry. Richard, don't forget what you did today. It is easy to forget our times of knowing, to think they've been dreams or old miracles one time. Nothing good is a miracle. Nothing lovely is a dream. The world is a dream, you say, and it's lovely. Sometimes sunset, clouds, sky. No, the image is a dream. The beauty is real. Can you see the difference? I nodded, almost understanding. Later, I sneaked a look in the handbook. The world is your exercise book. The pages on which you do your sums. It's not reality, although you can express reality there if you wish. You are also free to write nonsense or lies or tear the pages. Hey, Angelina, how are you? I always thought it was a funny thing to put faith in a deity that would sacrifice its own child for Hey, Reggie, how are you? We are a non-denominational room here, open to discussion on said topics of religion, spirituality, and whatnot. Yeah. But we recognize that to truly understand the elephant that is reality, all perspectives of reality, we have to approach each other with curiosity and willingness. We have to show up to the table assuming that the other person's perspective has validity to it and has value to it, not just validity, but value. So, when we approach each other with that kind of curiosity and willingness, we have the opportunity to learn from each other rather than to sit in our respective corners and scream at how the other people are in the wrong corner. Hey, Mark. The original sin is to limit the is. Don't. Are there a couple of chapters left? I'm not sure we're going to get through it all today. I will do my best, but I'm not sure if we will. Galactic Overlord. Bradshaw. Okay, I can't get a grasp on what I even want to wish. Something that I think a lot, or I misunderstood a long time ago, or I misunderstood about manifestation, which is essentially speaking your wishes, trying to manifest, bring in the things that you wish or you desire. Well, at some point really early, especially with spiritual background, religious background, I recognized that God and the universe thank you, Tanya, are far more creative and expansive and all-knowing than I am. So I kind of was like, well, what the audacity? Why should I wish too much for my life at all? Why not release attachment to wishing and enjoy and sink into enjoying? But when you do that, there is also still a piece that we are missing about being co-creators in our lives. Because it isn't just the universe having some grand plan. It is also our ability to create within that grand plan and to manifest and to be within that grand plan, because we are that expression of divinity manifest into this finite illusion, right? So instead of asking myself, what is the big picture that I want? Right? What's my long term? Where do I want to end up? What's my dream? What's my deepest wishes, right? Instead of looking that far ahead of me, I actually look in the tiny moments and I say, that's for me. This cup of coffee actually is for me. And I'm going to enjoy this cup of coffee and I'm going to give it my love and my attention and my gratitude because it's for me. And when somebody offers me, well, I don't know, let's say a shot of tequila today, that's not for me. But today, right? So today I say, that's not for me. Thank you. And in that way, I'm grateful for the opportunity to receive and also to release the gift. Again, with gratitude and in tiny little moments, do I then find what's really for me in life without me having to try to look miles and miles and miles ahead of where I'm at. If we don't know what it's like to be wealthy, right? Abundantly, if we want abundance in our lives, but we go, but I don't even know what abundance feels like. I've never even been there, right? When we've come from that space, I want to feel loved, but I don't even know what that feels like. I want to feel safe. I don't even know what that feels like. How are you going to jump from A, I want that, to Z, I am that, I have that, it is everywhere, pervasive in my life? In tiny little steps. Thank you, Mark. So are you, my friend. But that, Bradshaw, that is how I address those big wishes, right? When I sit down and ask myself, what do you want out of life? In the little moments. And then I leave my big picture open to say, I want a degree of safety that allows me to live most days without having an anxiety attack, right? Or a degree of security that allows me to make sure that my son and I have at least the basics and a little bit of fun, a little bit extra to do some fun stuff, right? Then I'm not pigeonholing myself into one tiny aspect of a possible future. Instead, I am opening myself up to receive the gifts that the universe is going to keep bringing to me. Because it is. The universe is always bringing gifts. God is always walking alongside us and helping us to see the gifts and the little things in the moment that are the stepping stones to our authentic purpose, to our authentic end game, if there's even an end game, right? Oh, Tanya, thank you. Welcome, welcome, my friend. You're welcome, Bradshaw. Reggie, what greater love is there to suffer or die for another person? In the Vedic texts, in early Vedic texts, we talk a lot about our place in the universe and the universe as a whole, and the workings and the inner workings of the universe. And one of the early tenets of that, of the 8 limbs of yoga specifically, is this idea of nonviolence. And in the West, we typically think of it as in a very black and white kind of way. Either, if I hit somebody, obviously that's violent. If I don't hit somebody, I'm being nonviolent, right? But there's a degree to which there's much more depth and complexity to this concept, because when we start to ask ourselves what is violent and what is not, if somebody is attacking me and I allow them to continue attacking me, is that not violent? Allowing violence to happen to me? Now, if I defend myself, is that violence? Or is that me loving myself? What greater love is there than to defend yourself when you are being attacked, and to be able to love your attacker without needing to then enact violence against them? I don't think the greatest love of all is to be a martyr, because to be a martyr would be to sacrifice the self for others, to put the self below others, even though the self is also an aspect of God. If you knew that you were manifested to carry around this little spark particle of God and spend your life housing this little particle so that God, the universe is source, can experience life through this particular little brand of illusion, wouldn't you keep that safe? Wouldn't you protect that? Wouldn't you care for that? Wouldn't you honor and respect that? Or would you let people take it apart? Or would you let people take it out of you? Or would you let people... It is not so black and white. And ultimately, it is up to us in each moment to decide. Nobody can decide that for you in the moment. But it's a travesty for us to believe that our highest honor is to martyr ourselves. Is to devalue ourselves to such a degree that we would allow harm to come to our little spark of divinity. What's that, Mark? Martyrdom? Love doesn't start until you love yourself first. It's true. Hey, Jen, how are you? Yeah. With my personal study of religion, I've been a reverend for 10 years, and I have studied multiple different religions and spent a lot of time in different religions. There are discrepancies to our stories, and so it's less about the exact details of the stories and more the greater picture. And when we look at the greater picture, there are parts that coincide with the greater truth that love exists and runs through all of the universe, that we are all connected by a common thread, life force, that we are not separate from each other, that we are not separate from God, that God itself is all that is. I really like the perspective when we come from Eastern religions, this idea of this Brahman, this energy that is all, and then these sub-deities that are responsible for other parts of the all, but they are not the all. And when we look at Christianity and Catholicism, I think that we often mistake one of those other deities for the all. And it's worth exploring. It's worth putting yourself in a different frame of mind to see that religion from that different perspective, and recognizing that the all, the is, the universal source love is not going to try to trick somebody into killing their child to see if they will, or try to, make a little bet with the devil to see with whoever to see if their greatest, the person who loved them most, who worshiped them most, would continue to worship them even if he took everything away. Those are narcissistic tendencies. Those are human tendencies. The oneness, the is, the thing that runs through all, does not, it just is. And therefore does not set rules for you to be this way or be that way, or you'll be smote and not allowed in the kingdom. These kind of ideas that bring us more toward a immature relationship with our higher deity, our greater power, when we believe that we are not powerful with that we have to, I have to confess all my sins through a priest so that the priest can tell me that God forgives me. This is a man-made thing. Humans need that kind of hierarchy. We want that kind of hierarchy. Our egos want that level of hierarchy, or I'm the middleman that talks to God, you don't do it directly, or you have to confess this way exactly or God's not going to listen to you. It's why I left the Catholic Church, because I found God, more of God. I found God in those walls, yes, behind those doors, yes, and I found him in the book, yes. But if you don't see God in all, you won't see God at all. Yes, you don't need a priest for forgiveness. Thanks, Jarrett. Good, Angelina. You know, there are a lot of people who turn to religion out of fear of, you know, not doing it right. And again, it can create a kind of infantile relationship that religion has been used many times over our history, to secure power and as a means of control. And it continues to be used that way in a lot of facets. And it's very unfortunate because, again, it creates this relationship that says, I'm weak, I am smaller than, I am broken. And if I just continue to bow and kowtow to you people who tell me that you're going to help me find my salvation, well, that is the work of ego. That is the work of misdirection. That is the person saying, I am your guru. I have all the answers for you inside of my head and inside of my heart, and you can't get them unless you follow me and do what I tell you to. The original sin is to limit the is, because the is your authenticity. A piece of the is your expression of authenticity. Your authenticity is the purest expression of your divinity. And so if we honor and put that higher power, creator, God, whatever word you want to use for it, right, at that place of esteem, then what audacity do we have to then turn around and say, yeah, I mean, it's great, God and all, obviously all powerful, but you kind of fucked this up. I'm a broken sinner. I'm going to change it. I'm going to be different. I'm going to make it different. I'm going to hide this part because I don't like it. I'm going to do this thing over here. I'm going to do this thing over here, right? We judge, we shame, we blame, we compartmentalize ourselves so much that we limit our authenticity and ultimately limit the expression of God through us. We all do that. Because again, that's the narrative that we have been given. That's the narrative that we have been taught, is that we are broken and bad, that we are sinful and terrible, and that we, thank you, Tanya, and that we have to confess and forget and beg for forgiveness. When in reality, again, you are perfect. The universe itself is perfect. I think one of the things that breaks my heart more than anything else is to see the world as it is today, and to see so many people feeling scared and ashamed of themselves. As an energy worker, as a coach, as a reverend, as somebody who's been working with people for so long, I can literally see it on people's faces. I can see it in the way you hold your mouth. I can see it in the way you cock your shoulder up a little bit. I can see it in the way you pull your energy in when you're talking. I can see it in the way you hold your hand here. I can see the fear. I can see the apprehension. I can see the doubt. And every time it just makes me want to go, if you knew that God was already inside of you, just asking to be expressed through you, would you doubt yourself? Would you shame yourself if you knew that laughter, that silliness, that frustration or that fear or these anything, that love, that absurdity that comes out of nowhere, all of those things are expressions of divinity. All of those things. Then would you say you're so wrong? Then would you say you're so ugly? Then would you say you're so broken? No. You wouldn't look at God and tell God is broken and wrong. Yes. Yeah, a lot of times the reason people feel guilt and shame, one of the places it comes from can be a longing for love and forgiveness. But that love and forgiveness comes from that energy that already flows through us. It's already available to us. We just hide ourselves from it. No, we can't make each other God. That's the recognition. Recognition is that others are not They are reflections of the divinity within us, yes, but nobody else is the end-all, be-all God. In fact, no singular entity is God. It is the collective of all. It is all of us together in love, all of us together in forgiveness. That is God. And we turn our eyes away from it, and we close our hearts, and we close our minds, and we ball up our fists, and we say, I'm alone. Agreed. Yeah, me too, Tanya. Billions of years of stars exploding created the iron in our blood. I'm glad, Jarrett. Hopefully in a good way. Okay. Chapter 12. The original sin is to limit the is. Don't. It was an easy, warm afternoon between rain showers. Sidewalks wet on our way out of town. You can walk through walls, can't you, Dawn? No. When you say no to something, I know it's yes. That means you don't like the way I asked the question. We certainly are observant, aren't we? He said. Is the problem with walk or walls? Yes, and worse. Your question presumes that I exist in one limited place-time and move to another place-time. Today, I'm not in the mood to accept your presumptions about me. I frowned. He knew what I was asking. Why didn't he just answer me straight and let me get on to finding out how he does these things? That's my little way of helping you be more precise in your thinking, he said mildly. Okay. You can make it appear that you can walk through walls if you want. Is that a better question? Yes, better. But if you want to be precise, don't tell me. I know how to say what I mean. Here's the question. Here is my question. How is it that you can move the illusion of a limited sense of identity expressed in this belief of space-time continuum as your body through the illusion of material restriction that is called a wall? Well done, he said. When you ask the question properly, it answers itself, doesn't it? No, the question hasn't answered itself. How do you walk through walls? Richard, you had it nearly right. Then you blew it all to pieces. I cannot walk through walls. When you say that, you are assuming things I don't assume at all. And if I do assume them, the answer is I can't. But it's so hard to put everything precisely, Dawn. Don't you know what I mean? So just because something is hard, you don't try to do it? Walking was hard at first, but you practiced at it, and now you make it look easy. I sighed. Yeah, okay. Forget the question. I'll forget it. My question is, can you? He looked at me as though he hadn't a care in the world. So you're saying that body is illusion and wall is illusion, but identity is real, and that can't be hemmed by illusions. I'm not saying that. You're saying that. But it's true. Naturally, he said. How do you do it? Richard, you don't do anything. You see it done already, and it is. Jarrett, right? Wow, being a baby and learning to walk. Can you imagine? You had to do it. But that's how we are a lot of times, especially when it comes to our spirituality, especially when we've been raised in a culture that does not promote that authentic spiritual connection, expression that often puts us into here are the rules to follow, don't question them, right? Don't think outside of that box. But when we step out of that box, we feel like children. We feel like toddlers, all kind of like, I've been hearing a lot of it as a coach, right? I've had a lot of people coming to me and saying like, I don't even know how to do this. I don't even know how to speak like this. I like learning to talk again, learning to walk again, learning to walk with your feet really on the ground. Take a day, bring your awareness to that day and spend your entire day on that day with your awareness focused in that day. And tell me if you don't walk differently, talk differently, feel differently, breathe differently, eat differently. Tell me you don't have a completely different experience of your reality if you bring your awareness and just bring your attention. Don't try to change shit. Just bring your attention to today, to now. And your experience is going to be different than if you continue operating through your life, continue operating through your day with your mind going all the one places in the universe that it likes to go, right? Your mind monkeys are very busy travelers. They like to go pop over to the future and the past and to like 6 years back and every like 15 possible futures, right? And 15 possible ways you could have redone the past. How many times are we not here? And when we're here, suddenly we realize how much we don't know and how much we have to relearn. And that's the gift. That's the gift, is being able to rediscover ourselves, fall in love with ourselves, come home to ourselves, and for the first time in our lives, for some of us, for many of us, meet ourselves authentically, like really meet ourselves. Yeah, you were learning to walk and hit your head when you first fell. So I remember my very first memory was like 4 months old. But I remember walking when I was like 9, I was under a year. I was like 9 or 10 months old, and I would get up. I remember the feeling of getting up on my feet and leaning forward, and I would just run. Apparently I didn't even crawl. I went from sitting on my butt and scooting around like on my belly to standing on my feet and running. So I ran into a lot of shit too. Learning to read was really exciting. I'm watching my son do it now, and it's really beautiful to watch. Okay. Okay. Richard, you don't do anything. You see it done already, and it is. Gee, that sounds easy. It's like walking. You wonder how it ever came when it was so hard for you to learn. Dawn, walking through walls isn't hard for me now. It's impossible. Do you think that maybe you say impossible over and over again 1,000 times, that maybe hard things will become easy for you? I'm sorry, possible. It is possible, and I'll do it when it is right for me to do it. He walks on water, folks, and he is discouraged because he doesn't walk through walls. But that was easy, and this... Argue for your limitations, and you get to keep them, he's saying. Did you not, a week ago, swim in the earth itself? I did that. And is not wall just vertical earth? Does it matter that much to you which direction the illusion runs? Horizontal illusions are conquerable, but vertical illusions aren't. I think you're getting through to me, Dawn. He looked at me and smiled. The time I get through to you is the time to leave you alone for a while. He looked at me and smiled. The last building in town was a feed and grain warehouse, a big place built of orange brick. It was almost as if he had decided to take a different way back to the airplanes, turning down some secret shortcut alley. The shortcut was through the brick wall. He turned abruptly to the right, into the wall, and he was gone. I think now that if I had turned at once with him, I could have gone through it too, but I just stopped on the sidewalk and looked at the place where he had been. When I put out my hand and touched the brick, it was solid brick. Someday, Donald, I said, someday. I walked the long way back to the airplanes. Yes! Ooh, galactic overload. Be like the children. Curiosity, playfulness, and willingness. What are qualities of children, right? What are the qualities of the child's mind? First of all, from somebody who studied human development and wellness for way too many years, the brain is in the theta brainwaves. We don't even leave the dream time. Our brain does not even stop fucking dreaming until we are about 8 years old. So for those first 7, 8-ish years, you're not even fully online, bro. You're not even fully here yet. And what is the quality of that? Of those creatures who are in this reality and fluidly in the others as well. Playfulness. Curiosity. An insatiable curiosity. A ravenous playfulness, right? I don't know if voracious willingness really counts. I don't think voracious willingness really counts. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But that kind of, again, presence. Because we're in the dream time, because the mind is in the dream time, it also cannot conceptualize of the time-space continuum. It takes a while for our brains to learn time and space, how that works, how those static illusions, or those illusions work, because they're not static. And so our experience is purely present. As we grow and as we learn more, our mental capacity expands and we start to consider more than just the present moment. But in those very early years, like between the ages of like 1, 2, 3, 4, our experience of the present moment is extremely different than we ever experience later on in life. But again, I go back to that. Children say, with unabashed, right? No shame, no guilt, no doubt. They say, I am the master of my universe. I am a co-creator. I am all powerful and all present and all interconnected. There is nothing I cannot reach and I cannot touch. If we can, but then we shut that down, right? We cultivate that, and we start to live by the rules that we've been given for this particular version of illusion of reality. Jarrett, find space for it. Find space for it in your day to day. Don't miss it. Cultivate it. Chris, I have a similar experience. Pretty much all of my very early memories are trauma memories, are horrific. Some of them are really fucking awful. But that's all the more reason to invite that child self to sit beside you today. That is all the more reason to cultivate playfulness and the presence. Okay. When we are young, before our bodies and minds are completely online, they are developed by our internal and external experience. And our mind and our body does everything it can to keep us safe and to create the structures, ego structures, mental structures, physical structures that keep us safe and allow us to operate within this life. Okay? When we have experiences very early that tell us or that are so dangerous that we feel like for safety reasons, we have to hide parts of ourselves, pull away with parts of ourselves, change or mask parts of ourselves. It happens to pretty much everybody, whether you have like, I know this awful trauma thing happened, or whether it's just like, I don't know, I just created this. Because again, it's unconscious. You're not even present for that experience, how that stuff gets built, right? So then when you're an adult, you have this beautiful opportunity to turn back toward yourself and to invite those pieces that have been hidden away. Some of the deepest, most profound work that I have done on my path of healing through that stuff is to make a spot at the table for my child self. And when I'm driving and I see something cool and I go, ooh, and I make all these really silly noises and wiggle a little bit, that's that little kid part of myself that was told to be quiet and not to screech like that, right? Like we get excited as children and children are like, ah! And then we're told to shut up, quiet it out, you're being too loud, quiet it. So we go, shh. But as an adult, you get to be that perfect parent for yourself. And you get to say, yeah, you get to let yourself wiggle. You get to let yourself dance on the porch. You get to let yourself wear a fucking silly onesie if you feel like it. You get to let yourself laugh as loud as possible. You get to go outside without shoes on a snowy fucking day and go walk in the snow with no shoes on if you feel like it. Hell, you can go pee in the snow for all I care, right? We have this beautiful opportunity. And in all honesty, I think this is the crux of our healing, is to create that space, is to foster relationships with ourself, with every part of ourself. That is loving yourself. I can't love myself and say, I love all of me, but this part stays hidden away and is not allowed out of the closet ever. That's not really loving all of me, is it? Yes, yeah, galactic overload creates trauma brain hardwiring, neurochemicals like cortisol harm the body. Yes, exactly. The body is doing that to keep us safe. It's doing that to keep us safe. I know we call it trauma brain, but that's what the body has been doing the whole time. Our body has our best interest in mind. Our heads, our minds have our best interest at heart, right? But they're not the wiser, most mature parts of ourselves. Letting the brain drive is like letting the steering wheel drive the car. Letting the body drive is like letting the car roll down the fucking hill on its own. But finding your navigator, that's another level of navigating life, of getting through life. That's a whole nother way. Because the higher self has the maps, knows how to navigate, can talk to the flow, to the great flow, and knows where it's going, right? The fish, the river, the flow, the current knows where it is going. The fish just needs to ride with it. It is really incredible. So just so you guys know, I think my kid's going to be done here in a second. I think my kiddo's going to be done here in a second. So we are going to have to come back for another session of this one. Okay, let me finish these last 2 pages, and then I will give you guys my little announcement that I have. I am making some changes, just FYI, so give me just a second. I'll get these last 2 pages done, and then we're going to pause. Okay. Donald, I said when I got to the field, I have come to the conclusion that you just don't live in this world. He looked at me, startled from the top of his wing, where he was learning to pour gas into the tank. Of course not. Can you tell me one person who does? What do you mean? Can I tell you one person who does? Me. I live in this world. Excellent, he said, as though through independent study I had uncovered a hidden mystery. Remind me to buy you lunch today. I marvel at the way you never stop learning. I puzzled over that. He wasn't being sarcastic or ironic. He had meant just what he said. What do you mean? Of course I live in this world. Me and about 4 billion other people. It's you who... Oh, God, Richard. You're serious. Cancel the lunch. No hamburger, no malt, nothing at all. Here I had thought you had reached this major knowing. He broke off and looked down at me in an angry pity. You're sure of that? You live in the same world, do you, as a stockbroker, shall we say? Your life has been all tumbled and changed, I presume, by the new SEC policy mandatory review of portfolios with shareholder investment loss with more than 50%. You live in the same world as a tournament chess player, do you? With the New York Open going on this week, Petrosian and Fisher and Brown in Manhattan for $500,000 purse. What are you doing in Maitland? What are you doing in a hayfield in Maitland, Ohio? You with your 1929 Fleet biplane landed on a farm field with your major life priorities, farmers' permission, people who want 10-minute airplane rides, Kinner aircraft engine maintenance, and a mortal fear of hailstorms. How many people do you think live in your world? You say 4 billion people live in your world. Are you standing way down there on the ground and telling me that 4 billion people do not live in 4 billion separate worlds? Are you going to put that across on me? He panted from his fast talking. I could almost taste that hamburger with the cheese melting, I said. I'm sorry. I would have been so happy to buy. But all that's over and done now. Best forgotten. Though it was the last time I accused him of not living in this world, it took me a long time to understand the words where the book had opened. If you will practice being fictional for a while, you will understand that fictional characters are sometimes more real than people with bodies and heartbeats. If you will practice being fictional for a while, let that inner child play. You will understand that fictional characters are sometimes more real than people with bodies and heartbeats. All right, my friends, we are stopping on chapter 13 because my kiddo is officially here. So, that said, guys, I just wanted to briefly announce that I am moving a lot of my stuff off of TikTok. TikTok has been lagging my content, hiding my stuff, banning or restricting my lives, all sorts of fun things. So we are moving off of TikTok. I am now on Patreon at Move With Change, and I have also expanded my membership options. I used to have like 2 membership options and then actually 3 membership options. There was the TikTok subscriber here, the CAYA Sangha membership, and then a big coaching monthly membership. I have added tiers so you guys can get varying degrees of access to private classes, including as well as private coaching, to the CAYA Sangha, to my workshops. All of that stuff is all laid out on Patreon. So go ahead and go over there, subscribe. I am going to keep subscribers here on TikTok. It's kind of just going to be like my tip jar. They take like 60-70% of everything I make on here, and then lag and hide my content. So I'm just not doing it anymore. So we're going to create I've got the Patreon there. Please go sign up and join whatever level works for you.
Oh no.
What?
I think I might have lost my earring.
You found it? Okay, good. Disaster averted. Yes, of course, Chris. So that said, there are now multiple levels for you to get involved and for you to get into classes, private classes, group coaching, that kind of stuff, as well as bigger tiers. If you want to do private coaching, I do private yoga classes, meditation classes, that kind of stuff. I am setting up a schedule for coaching by donation, so that will still be available. Just give me a minute to create the calendar again. Coaching by donation, remember, is just what it sounds like. They're 15-minute sessions, and you can pay whatever you want for those sessions. And I've opened it up to a calendar so you guys can book what works for you rather than it just being a tiny little block of time. We will be creating a Discord space for the CAYA Sangha. That you have to still be at the right membership level for the CAYA Sangha. But the reason we're using Discord is because it's free, for one. Two, it has a bunch of features that allow us to have different levels, different layers for different membership levels. But the big piece, the biggest piece of the CAYA Sangha, if you're not familiar, CAYA, CAYA, stands for Come As You Are, because this is a place where we practice authenticity. This is a place where we show up with curiosity, show up to each other, approach each other with curiosity and willingness. We practice radical inclusion, revolutionary kindness, so that everybody, because everybody deserves a space to show up and to be authentically you, even when it's messy, even when it's scary, even though you don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, even if you feel like you're just barely learning to walk in your authenticity, right? We all deserve a safe space to explore that. So that's what the CAYA Sangha is. Again, there's a membership level over there on Patreon, and all the tiers and all the info is all laid out nice and easy to read. But the big piece about the CAYA Sangha is community support, is being there for each other, is showing up for each other. We've got group coaching, we've got group practice sessions, that kind of stuff. But Discord has a voice channel. And this is the kicker. This is going to be the upgrade to the CAYA Sangha. Instead of us just having the twice weekly group coaching, which we will continue to have, there will be an always open voice channel. Now, on your phone, you can turn the notifications off. But if it's 3 a.m. and somebody is having a bad night, and you go into the voice channel and ping and somebody's awake, it's an immediate connection. It's an immediate support system, like a phone tree sort of deal. And I'm actually really excited about rolling out this piece. But again, to get that, you've got to be at a certain level of membership. If you have any questions about any of that, or want me to kind of assist you kind of finding what works for you, you can either send me a message here on TikTok. You can always email me at rev@movewithchange.com. Patreon is patreon.com/@movewithchange. Hey, Benny, please go follow me on YouTube. The replays for all of my free classes, as well as my shenanigans and whatnot, are all on YouTube. I am at Move With Change on YouTube as well. I'm going to be leaning much more into the YouTube channel because YouTube doesn't hide my content. Yay! And eventually I will be offering lives and subscription level lives over there on YouTube as well. Once I get up to 500 followers, we can start doing that kind of subscription stuff and closed off stuff. And all of that will work seamlessly with Patreon. So that's all. I love you guys. I hope you enjoy your Friday. I'm going to be adding some new live stuff, creating some more content stuff that's going to be going out. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm working on more workshops. Those are going to be my big, like really exciting stuff for the next couple of years, is these workshops that I have been, like I said, I have 20 plus years in the field of human development and wellness. And it's time for me to like open the toolbox and start to give these things to you guys. That's what I'm here doing. The universe finally said, okay, now it's time to share your tools. Yes! I've been waiting so damn long to do this. Okay, I love you guys. Enjoy your Friday. I will see you soon. Let's see. Tomorrow morning, Bhakti Bites. Yeah? Practice our mudra. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Love you. Bye. Yeah, of course. Love you too. Thank you, Tanya.